Everybody, welcome to the Jesus Taxi. I'm so excited for this particular episode. I drove over to San Antonio, Texas, to see one of my good friends I've been knowing a long time. His name, well, I'm going to reveal his name in a second, but I'm telling you, you want to stick around as we drive around the streets here in San Antonio. It's going to be the best 30 minutes of your day, I promise. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Jesus Taxi. I'm Wayne Hanson, and I'm sitting in San Antonio right now in a little residential neighborhood. A friend of mine works on the radio. His name is Sean Rima. He looks a lot like that guy with the fedora. He's not wearing a fedora today, though, and this guy, he loves the Lord. He's had his ups and downs like all of us, and I'm so excited to welcome my good friend, and soon yours, Mr. Sean Rima. Welcome to the Jesus Taxi.
Hey, brother, how are you?
So glad you're here.
Man.
So we are going to just tool around San Antonio, and you can show me the sights, and I think we've got some really cool photography that your stepdaughter?
My stepdaughter, stepdaughter Alicia Corcoran is an amazing photographer, and she does a lot of the work for my books. I self-publish my poetry and stuff, and so she's got a great eye, and she's taken some great pictures downtown.
Right.
We have a great community of muralists, so you have murals, beautiful murals everywhere.
So before I need both hands for the steering wheel, I'll just say you got to check out Sean's poetry books. And this is the latest one called The Existential Slap. I think referring to the Will Smith, Chris Rock. Maybe that's, I'm not sure what that is.
The title of my book out your mouth.
Right? But yes, that is a moment in history right there. And Sean and I just co-wrote a song. I'll probably do a link to it online. I haven't posted it yet, but it's called Syria's Song. And Sean's got a great wife here in San Antonio. Her name is Syria. I just got a hug in the kitchen from Syria.
She's great. She's great. I really did well there.
Yeah, you're blessed, man. You're blessed.
Yeah.
So it's cool. So poetry, music. I know you and I have a mutual love for Johnny Cash.
Oh man,
you know,
Johnny Cash, to paraphrase Bob Dylan, is a spiritual person to me. You know, a spiritual hero.
Right.
You know, a very an amazing man and artist.
Yeah, and then both you and I being people in recovery, you know, Johnny certainly had his struggles with prescription pills and alcohol and so many other things. And you think about June Carter Cash and how she really helped him a lot when it came. Did you watch that film with about Johnny Cash that they put out? It was like a documentary.
Was that the Greg Laurie?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. I have the book, and I'm going to start reading that. And he's done a lot of research and interviewed a lot of family members, apparently, of the Cash family about not only Cash's faith. This was a man who, when he was recording with Rick Rubin, had his own communion kit that he carried with him wherever he went. And apparently, before they'd start recording at Rubin's house, they'd have communion together and would say a prayer. But you know, Johnny was also a very dark character and had a lot of addictions and temperament stuff, and he was had been through a lot, had lived a hard life, you know, as you know, prior to
for
the
sure.
fame thing. And what I always admired about Johnny Cash was that, first off, he was never embarrassed. He was proud of his faith.
Right.
Front and center, his faith. He didn't apologize for it. He just put it out there. And he also was very honest about his weaknesses and about his troubles and about his darknesses and shadows.
Yeah,
that I always appreciate.
That reminds me of somebody else I know.
Who could that be?
I don't know. The guy works on the radio down in Texas somewhere.
Well, you know, the thing is, and I as with him as a very early inspiration, I believe if you've got shadows that you're doing battle with, and I believe in demons and angels, I believe addiction is a demon.
Should I go right or straight here?
You can turn here just for... We'll see what happens.
Yeah, man. It's an adventure.
This will actually take us to the west side if we.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we'll hopefully we'll see some interesting stuff we can film out the windshield.
We may, because right now we're just sort of in a neighborhood. But to me, what's the value of the battle of the demons with the demons if you don't share that and be honest about it? You know,
for sure.
That's how other people. That's how I evolve, is by talking about it.
That's right. And was it? I think recovery depends on rigorous honesty. It's only when you finally surrender and say, God, I don't got this without you. I have to have your help. Otherwise, I can't do this. And that's that. God somehow really likes that surrender. He really, really likes that,
Well, yeah, and I'm reading this daily devotional, and I've forgotten his name, but he refers to it as abandonment. It's a moment of abandonment when you're really at the end of it.
Right.
And you have exhausted all of your meager abilities, and it's a cry for help, and God is always there to pick us up. And I don't, and you know this as well, as far as recovery, you really don't even begin that journey until you get to the most honest place you can possibly be, which is, I can't do this alone.
Right.
Or I am powerless. Or I want to stop.
Right. Yeah. I think one particular book that we read from book club talks about the jumping off point, right? You finally come to the end of ourselves, and I got nowhere to go. It's either live or die at this point.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to live, I have to have God's help. And I've rejected God in the past, or rejected the idea of God, or I believed, even if there was a God, I behaved as if he didn't exist. And we had to stop trying to run the show and just let God be God. And even if we don't fully understand God, or we're like, religion hurt me, or the church is full of hypocrites, you just got to let all that stuff go and go, you know what? It's just got to be simple. If there's a loving creator out there, the force, nature, Gaia, whatever you want to call it, but I personally believe it's Jesus Christ. That's why we call this show the Jesus Taxi. But in another book, the big book I call, the ancient book, the book that's older than all the books, says, draw near to God and he'll draw near to you. Right?
Well, yeah, and and you look at any given 12-step program, which are amazing programs, at the heart of all of that is this concept of a higher power, which you and I call Christ, which you and I call God.
Right.
And that's God is the anchor of your recovery. I mean, to me, it really came down to stripping away all the bull crap, because as an addict, you layer yourself in bull, you swaddle yourself in bull crap.
Yes.
It really comes down to a point between the person looking back at you in the mirror and God.
Yes.
And nobody else. You can't do it for your wife. You can't do it for your kid. You can't do it for anybody else but God.
That's right. Yeah, and even in the end, what I found in my recovery journey is I grew up in a very religious home. My dad was a pastor, and when I even tried to do it for God, I couldn't do it for God. And then I felt like a failure, or felt like a bad Christian. And I was like, I can't even do this for God. And then I felt like a total failure. And I had a real revelation, a couple years into my sobriety journey, where a friend of mine who's a cop from New York.
Oh, wow.
And he really functioned like a sponsor in the early days for me. He said, thick New York accent, hey, keep it simple, take it easy,
Take it easy. Don't think so much.
That's right.
What's the matter for you?
You don't have to be sober all the next year. Like, just be sober for the next 24 hours, and I'll see you tomorrow. And I was
that's great.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't have to do this. God has this. I don't. And he says, and he goes, here's another thing. Don't do this for your wife. Don't even do this for God. You do this for you. You do this for you. This is you take your medicine. Take your medicine. And just come to the meetings, work the steps.
That's brilliant, because that's true. And I discovered that myself, that nothing is going to work for you until you make that decision.
That's right.
Until you say, I've had enough. I have to stop.
Sure. Northern Yankees, when they come to Texas, they go, what is Heb? What is Hev.
What's a hev?
Right? So here, Sean, flip the forward camera. We'll show that sign. Yeah, the HEB, and then just flip it up, tilt it up there. Oop, there we go.
HEB.
Now, see, I think that San Antonio is a lot like the Detroit of Texas.
Don't say that out loud.
We were just
Are the windows up? What?
We were on a street called Bandera.
Yeah.
And we have a street just like it in Detroit called Telegraph Road.
Telegraph Road.
And we got little markets like this everywhere. They're not called HEB. They're called Farmer Jack's and Myers Thrifty Acres. But they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. So
wow.
And it was like I could close my eyes and just change the signs and I'd be in Detroit.
Well, I tell you what, the HEB is the greatest supermarket in the universe.
Right.
And the reason it's called HEB, it's named after a gentleman named Howard E. Butt. B-U-T-T.
I see why they changed the name.
So they went with the initials instead of, Butt Mart. Buttco.
Yes, much better name.
Right at HEB, it's predominantly Texas. I mean, every neighborhood's got an HEB, and this is my neighborhood HEB,
That's
so we
awesome.
hang out here a lot. I've been coming here for 10 years, but now they're starting to expand, and now they're getting fancy HEBs that have. We have one down off the Loop 1604 that we call the fancy HEB because they have like a jewelry store. You can buy a wedding ring in there. You can buy a patio.
Wow.
They have really fancy cheeses. Everybody wears yoga pants.
No.
Nobody wears yoga pants at mine. We all.
Well, you do after surgery.
Our pajama bottoms. You might see in mine pajama bottoms, but you don't see any yoga pants. But you want to see some serious. So yeah, every HEB is a little different, but Texans love HEB.
Yeah.
And I love HEB.
I do too.
I just love being there.
Yeah. There's something fun just about going to the grocery store.
Yes, it's the little. I think that's another part of recovery. We were talking about this earlier about when you start, your mind starts to clear.
Yeah.
Is that you recognize just the little things in life.
Yes.
Just keep it simple. Just go into the store with your wife.
Right.
It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, and then just being of service to your family members and friends.
Right.
You don't need everything to be glitzy and glamorous and 100% all the time. You can just take it easy. Should we go left here?
Yeah, I got an idea.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to go by someplace famous while we're hanging out.
Oh, nice. Well, while I'm waiting here for the traffic, I'm going to throw to our first sponsor, a podcast sponsor I use called Riverside FM. Check out Riverside FM, and I'll be back in 1 minute. Riverside.fm makes it easy to record remote podcasts and video interviews that look and sound like they were recorded in $1 million studio. Riverside was founded in 2020 by two brothers, Gideon and Nadav. Originally from Amsterdam, now headquartered in Tel Aviv, Israel. Those of us that are digital creators and podcasters know that content is king. Content is our thoughts, opinions, and ideas. You can change the world with content. The mission of Riverside.fm is to empower creators and businesses to tell their stories and to amplify their voices. Start creating your own podcasts and digital content with Riverside.fm using my link in the description below. We're excited to see the new media landscape and the emerging content and voices that share everything from news and cultural commentary to spirituality and mindfulness. Again, check out Riverside.fm using my link in the description below. Hey everybody, we're back and we're in San Antonio, Texas with my buddy Sean Rima, and Sean just had a brain blast. We need to go over to a spot where Willie Nelson started his music career.
We started, yeah.
Right here in San Antonio.
Well, we're on I live on the northwest side
Straight
of San
ahead?
Antonio.
Or left?
Turn here on the Bandera Road, and Bandera Road goes out of the city and goes up into the hill country.
Yeah.
But there's a town called Helotes right over there.
Nice.
And Helotes is the home of the very famous, world famous Floors Country Store, which when Willie Nelson was growing his hair out for the first time and letting his beard go, the owners of Floors gave him a Saturday night gig, a regular gig, and he started that whole outlaw country thing, basically playing at Floors Country Store. And all the major acts play at Floors. Willie plays there. Waylon used to play there. I've seen Billy Joe Shaver, Ray Benson, and Sleep at the Wheel, Charlie Robinson. A lot of people. Floors is a big deal, and it's right over there.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So we'll go take a look.
Yeah, man. For music lovers, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
I love little. This is why we do this show in the car.
It's perfect.
Oftentimes when you're driving around with a friend and you're exploring a town or the person's town, you're like, oh man, I've just thought of something I need to show you that's in my hometown. I drive out all the time, but I forget how famous it is to other people.
Right. Well, you become inured to your own surroundings.
For sure.
That it's just so commonplace to you, then you forget the extraordinary things that are all around you.
Yeah.
I love San Antonio.
Yep. Stop and smell the bluebell or whatever they are. Right?
Stop and smell the blue bonnets.
Blue bonnets.
Or the bluebell. It's great ice cream.
Right.
In fact, eat some bluebell while you're sitting in a patch of blue bonnets.
Right. Exactly.
Do you know it's illegal to pick blue bonnets?
I did not know that.
You cannot destroy them.
No kidding.
In Texas.
That's awesome. But yellow roses are okay to pick.
Yes. That's a date night thing.
Right.
If you're in Texas, give her a yellow rose. Also, I'm trying to think, the state bird is the mockingbird.
Okay.
And I believe it is illegal if you see a feather on the ground from one of these birds. If you pick it up, you have committed a crime.
No kidding.
Yes.
So you have to leave nature in its original state.
Well, just that one bird.
That's interesting.
But
we got a flower like that called the Columbine in
right.
Colorado, and I had a house in Monument, Colorado, and it was so crazy. We would get these springtime storms just after the first bloom, and oftentimes I've seen columbines pushed up through the snow in Colorado,
wow.
which is it's a hardy mountain flower, and that's our state flower.
Flowers got to be hardy up there in the mountains there.
Yeah.
The mockingbird is a Texas state bird. And
that's awesome.
You see a feather on the ground, you're breaking the law if you pick it up.
Yeah, I gotta leave it. I love it, man. I love it.
We're just going to keep going straight.
Sure.
And I'll show you that it's on this road, actually.
So, I don't know, how much you want to share about, your personal life, but you've had your mother with you now for a few years.
Yeah.
And she's had some health problems, and your wife Siri has done a really nice job of just kind of picking up some of the slack there, and you're been carrying that burden, but you're doing it with such grace, man. And I don't know, I'll let you share whatever you want to about that.
Sure.
But what have you learned in just caring for an elderly loved one, and the whole patience thing and trusting God thing,
It really, it's a journey, and I'm 56. We're at this stage of life where our parents are getting old. If we have them with us still. And my dad passed away in 2016, just to kind of catch everybody up real quick. And in 2018, when my mom was living with my older brother, there was a fire at the house, and he was killed. And my mother was left homeless. Everything my father had, for 35 years was gone.
Wow.
And so my other brother lived close to my mom, but he got sick with brain cancer, and
wow.
we flew my mom out here, and that was 5 years ago.
So like a triple whammy.
Yeah, and then my other brother passed away from brain cancer in 2020. And so mom got here right about the time the pandemic began, and the past 5 years we've been dealing with not only where's she going to live, how's she going to live, but also very obviously a diagnosis of dementia.
Right.
And now she is 90 years of age, and she's in the final stages. And so she lives with us, and my wife, Syria, quit her job and took on her care full time. She also has hospice, which comes and visits.
Yeah.
But she's getting to the end of it, and so I'm spending a lot of time not only kind of preparing to say goodbye to my mom temporarily, as I believe.
Right.
But also just kind of looking over the past 5 years, which I believe really was a lesson. I think hard times are a lesson that God is teaching you something.
What do you think the main lesson has been?
Honestly, kind of the theme of the show: keep it simple. You know, the most of the stuff, and I'd say 99% of the stuff that we bother ourselves about and worry about and fret over and stress over is meaningless.
Yeah.
And chasing after the wind.
Right.
Being alive in this beautiful birthday gift of a life is such a blessing to just be in God's world.
Right.
And if you have people that love you and whom you love, again, it's a blessing. It's that's the important stuff.
For sure. Yeah.
And one of the things that you learn in getting away from addiction is it's a very selfish, self-absorbed. That's why I believe addiction is a demon. Because it has all the earmarks of demonic activity, and you become self-obsessed. All you care about are your needs and your gratification, and it's a very myopic way to live.
The way I describe it in the spiritual realm is whatever you give permission to is what you sign up for.
Yes.
So
absolutely,
if you give permission to the devil to come in, he's going to come in with both guns blazing.
Yeah, and he's going to tear up the joint, you know.
Yeah.
And,
but if you give permission to the Holy Spirit and to God's Word, then God will come in, and God is way more gentle than the devil. God will come in and just begin to work on your heart a little. He start softening you. He starts, tenderly working with you. And man, I'd much rather choose the easier, softer way with Jesus than the hard way with the devil. That's for sure.
It is greed and selfishness and self-absorption is a very difficult way to live. It's exhausting, actually, when you think about it, and to be free of that, and to be free from addiction and just be in your life.
Right.
Jesus didn't care how much money you had. Jesus didn't care what family name you have. Jesus didn't care what accomplishments you could chalk up to yourself.
Right. So
are you treating people well?
Right. Yeah.
Are you filled with love? Are you spreading light around you?
Yeah.
Are you spreading the music of heaven? It's really so simple.
For sure.
It's really just, that's what I've learned. It's just how simple it all is.
That's awesome. I think you and I were talking about your mom. I think you said your mom was Lutheran.
Yeah.
I know you came to my church in Colorado for a while. We're sort of a independent, charismatic,
right.
Baptist-costal, charismaptist. I don't know what we are. we speak in tongues and we believe the Bible. You know what I mean? And then I know Syria's probably got a Catholic background.
Yeah.
And so you go to church with her sometimes. You're Reverend Sean. You know what I mean? You share a lot of things about God.
Yeah, I mean, my wife is Catholic. We actually have a place called the Grotto here in town, and it's actually an exact replica of a grotto, I believe, in France.
Oh wow, cool!
Of where this woman who had a vision of Mother Mary, Saint. It's the Lourdes Grotto. It's Lourdes, France, is where the actual one is.
Oh, okay.
And it's a very holy. People go. They have services there. They have mass there, and you can light candles. We go there and we pray and we light candles.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
We really have not yet committed to a faith community yet. We're kind of looking around.
Yeah, well, you kind of run one on KTSA.
I do, so our lives are kind of like a church. My background is Lutheran, Methodist, evangelical, Catholicism. I was an Episcopalian for a while.
Let me ask
all of that is kind of combined to bring me where I am now. Yeah.
On the radio, you take calls a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think, this is my just personal belief, you probably end up doing a lot of the functions of what a priest does when you're hearing confessions oftentimes.
Sometimes,
people are talking about what's going badly in their life or how bad they feel or something bad they did once or regrets, and then oftentimes they call on the radio because they're trying to get answers, and you're doing your best to try to give them some every now and then, or at least some hope, right? What have you learned in taking all those calls down through the years?
And just to let you know, we're coming up on the very famous
should I get in the right lane?
No, you can stay right here because we're going to drive past it. There's really
cool.
No place. I'll kind of point at it. Maybe we can send you some pictures of what it
that's right.
looks up close.
Yes, you'll send me pictures along with those other pictures from your
so
daughter-in-law.
famous. I imagine in a weird way it's kind of like being a bartender in that you hear everybody's side of things.
Yeah.
There are people. Radio is a very intimate medium in its own way. People become very personally connected to you.
Yeah.
Because you're the local guy and you're there in their head every single day and you're getting them up in the morning.
Yeah, or they spend hours with you.
Yeah, right? And some people will say extremely personal things on the air.
Yeah.
And I always feel blessed for what I do for a living, that I can be that person for that person at that moment. There are also the people that call up and they just want to scream at you.
Right.
And I scream back at them. And we all scream and people get a laugh,
Right.
The political discourse in America right now is poisonous. It's there's no real listening going on.
Have you ever seen it like this before, ever,
No,
in your life?
Not this bad. Maybe,
right.
In the years leading up to 9/11, when there was a lot of conservative talk radio was kind of finding its own, and things got pretty toxic there. But
I think when we were kids in the 70s,
like
I remember, in Detroit especially, it was so scary because when the Watts riots were happening in LA, we had riots happening in Detroit, and they were burning buses, they were burning churches.
Interrupt. No, don't turn.
Okay.
That's the famous Floors Country Store.
Nice. That's the Willie.
You didn't see it on TV.
Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson.
I'll pull it off of Google Images and we'll put it up.
There you go. Anyway, sorry.
Nice.
We can just turn around and go back the other way.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, and so I think the racial tension. I think many ways our politicians have tried to stoke the tension between us instead of trying to bring peace. They've done everything they can to create division.
Well, if we're worried more about screaming at each other, we're not really paying attention to what they're doing.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? That's
so
really what that's all about.
Yes.
If you have great ideas, you have a great vision for the country, you don't need to distract anybody from anything. You can just sell it on its own merits.
Yes.
Which is kind of what Trump did. When one of the reasons I think he rode into office in 2016.
Yeah.
But if you're frankly full of crap or you're doing something shady,
right?
Wayne, that Sean guy, I don't think he likes you very much. I think he's probably the reason your life's all messed up,
Right?
You gotta hate that guy,
Right?
And then we go by the famous Floors.
One more time.
Store. John T. Floor.
That is awesome.
But you know what I mean?
I do.
And in chaos, if your idea is to destroy this country and replace it with something else, well, you sort of have to tear down the old building first, and I think a lot of that plays into the toxicity of the debate.
Right. I think what we have going for us in Middle America, and frankly the rest of the country, is that Washington is 3,000 miles away.
Yeah.
They say they might make their own declarations from on high, but good luck getting that through the states. And in local governments, when you have sheriffs or mayors or governors who say, we're just not going to toe the line on your craziness. We're going to vote in better people or better policies. And it might be pretty dark right now, but for me as a Christian, I go, in God we trust. It's on our money for a reason.
Right.
I don't trust in the government. I don't trust even in myself. I trust in God, and He's going to sort these things out. King Solomon said, He's the one who can bring down one king and bring up another one.
Right.
And God is the one who ordains authority and powers in the world. So I don't have to fret over that stuff. I can let people complain and I can have my opinion, but I don't obsess over it,
Well, and you asked me what I've learned about, from talking to people all these years, is that politics, it's become so personal now.
Right.
That if you disagree with somebody politically, it's because you hate them. And really, politics is just one corner of your life. It's one corner of life. It's not
or it
all of life. Or it should be. It's like, what? You got to learn to put it on the shelf over here.
Right. That's right.
And then live your life, man. Live this blessed life that God gave you. And it's such a waste of time, all of this effort and energy dumped into politics.
That's
Mere
right.
politics.
That's right.
That's what I can't
Get
stand.
outside, pet the dog.
Oh, man.
Get a hobby.
Eat a taco, eat a good taco. Just love on somebody,
Right. Go to church. Read your Bible.
I love being this age. I mean, I love because you realize just how freaking quick life goes,
Right. Really quick. Really.
It's mind-blowing, and I think once you grasp that, it makes you appreciative of, again, the simple stuff.
So true.
And politics,
Yep.
my best friend I've known for almost 40 years, and he and I were just talking on the phone just last night. Politically, we couldn't be more different. I mean, he's a raging liberal. He might be a communist, but we don't talk about politics.
Yeah.
We never bring it up.
That's amazing.
We talk about our memories together. We talk about good times and what life's like. But
that's great.
Politics doesn't have to rule your life, and it certainly shouldn't be your God.
That's right. That's right. Well, speaking of God, I want to tell you about Summit Church of Douglas County in Colorado. Check out my little promo from Summit Church.
What do you look for in a good church? A loving spiritual family? Life-giving messages that help you draw closer to God? A place to raise your kids with moral values? A place to connect? A place to protect? And a place to grow? You can find all this and more at Summit Church of Douglas County in Sedalia, Colorado. Summit Church isn't a perfect church, but it's a loving spiritual family nestled in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains in Sedalia. Come join us for an in-person worship at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time at 4240 North Perry Park Road in Sedalia, Colorado, 80135, or join us live on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Summit Church Sedalia. For more information about our ministry, visit mysummitchurch.com. Do you want to start a relationship with God? Visit 29minutes.org and learn more about how to have a friendship with Jesus Christ.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Jesus Taxi. I'm here in the Jesus Taxi with my good friend Sean Rima from KTSA in San Antonio. We're driving back to his house. We're turning right at the HEB to go home.
You take a ride at the HEB to go to my casa.
And this is the Jesus Taxi, and I wanted to ask Sean just his thoughts on the person of Jesus Christ. What have you learned about Jesus, or what have you learned knowing the Lord, or what would you like to say about Jesus, I guess?
Well, I grew up with depictions of Jesus with Max von Sydow with his very serious, dour look and speaking in a very monotone voice, or Robert Powell, with his unblinking eyes. And my sense of Jesus is that, first off, I bet he could really crack you up. I feel he was a joy-filled person as a personality.
Yeah.
You don't captivate, multitudes of people sitting
with
on a
no
rock
microphone.
with no microphone because you're boring. I mean, I think he probably had a personality that just reached out to people.
Right.
And certainly in my life, I've learned that you can say a true thing with humor, and it gets. You look at a lot of the parables; some of them really could be construed as humorous.
Yeah.
I've worked my whole life. I've tended to your fields. I've done everything you wanted, and this schmuck gets a party. I mean,
yeah.
I bet those stories to those people in that time were probably quite charismatic and humorous to a certain extent.
Right. Or get the plank out of your own eye before you try to get the
one,
speck
right.
out of the other guy's eye.
Exactly. So I think he was probably much more joyful and purely humorous than we like to give him credit for. And so my sense of Jesus is somebody ultimately who was the most approachable human being ever created.
I think so too.
And that you would not feel any sense of fear or apprehension. And if you do, it's something you would be layering on to him.
Right.
So for me, the older I get, the more Jesus becomes God sitting in the seat next to me in my car that I'm having a conversation with.
That's right. And I look at the grace message that what Jesus did what I couldn't do. He paid for everything that I've ever done wrong, everything I will do wrong, everything wrong I did that I forgot about. His blood, his perfect blood, his perfect sacrifice has made up the difference for where I lack. and I can't earn it. All I can do is receive it. Or like in the recovery sense, I can't do it on my own. All I can do is surrender to it. And man, oh man, when I learn to surrender on a daily basis, and I give Jesus more and more real estate in my heart, and my mind, and my will, and my emotions, and I surrender to God's plan, man, that's when the magic happens. That's when the Holy Spirit finally gets his way, But if I fight that, then it doesn't go so good.
Well, I think that God also speaks to us through things that are all around us. You think about water, and when you're trying to get someplace in water, and speaking of which, you want to get over to that next lane.
Yeah.
If when you think about the undertow and you think about waves and stuff, and you will get pulled under the waves the more you fight the flow of the water.
Right.
We do a lot of river floating around here.
Yes.
And the one thing about the river is you got to let the river take you where it's going to take you.
Yeah.
If you fight it, you're just going to end up falling over or swamping yourself. And I think God's love is like that. You just got to let it carry you where it's going to carry you and trust you it's going to carry you someplace great.
That's awesome.
And you want to get over into this lane now.
Oh, okay. Good.
It's 3 lanes and then it goes to 2 lanes.
Yeah, you get cut off in different places. Yeah, I noticed you got some aggressive drivers here in San Antonio, just like we have in Denver. But I think our aggressive drivers moved from California. I think your aggressive drivers are homegrown.
Yeah, if you've ever ridden in a car with my wife, you would realize just how spot on you are. There is a certain amount of aggressive driving. And I grew up in the hard scrabble streets of Annapolis, Maryland.
Oh,
so
right.
I'm like, don't hurt me. It's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah,
don't
but
hurt me.
Baltimore is no joke, right?
Baltimore's dangerous.
Yeah,
I grew up in the burbs of Baltimore, which were
Yeah, man. Yeah, that town.
Nice crab outlets.
That town is nearly the apocalypse already.
Well, I know people in Baltimore that I've known since I was a kid that don't leave their homes right now.
I would think
the crime is so bad.
Yeah.
That's a demon. That's
for
evil,
sure.
And we're just inviting it in.
Yep. Yeah, you're so right.
You know.
Well, we have run to the end of what I can do in an episode. I am so glad you guys joined me for the Jesus Tax. I'm running Sean home. I want to just encourage you to investigate your own relationship with Jesus Christ. Check out other episodes of the Jesus Taxi Show. If you're ever here in West Texas near San Antonio, tune in to KTSA 107.1 550 and listen to the Sean Rima Show. You'll be glad that you did. Thanks for joining us today on this episode of the Jesus Taxi, and stay tuned here for the end. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching the Jesus Taxi Show today. The Jesus Taxi is a proud outreach of Summit Church of Castle Rock, Colorado. Go to mysummitchurch.com and press the donate button to support the ministry financially. If you want to do that, you can also do it by text. It doesn't cost anything, no fee for it. If you text the amount of your gift to this number, 303-625-9434, and then press send, follow the prompts using your smartphone, and 100% of what you give by text will go to the ministry. You can also mail your gift the old-fashioned way. Just write a check and mail it to this address, Summit Church, 200 South Wilcox Street, Box 243, Castle Rock, Colorado, 80104. And we'll see you next time on the show. Remember, God loves you. He loved you so much that he sent Jesus, and he's there with you in your ups and downs. So share this link with a friend, and we'll see you next time on the Jesus Taxi Show.